without making him just a straight up stealth killer, which was something we wanted to avoid. So I had this idea of doing something that we'd never really tried before, where we focus Springtrap kind of as a grab-based killer.
Oh,
because
man.
we have grabs in DBD. They are inherently jump scares into themselves. It's right there. So we just kind of leaned into that and gave him more of those opportunities.
Oh,
There he is right there on screen, by
there
the
he
way.
is, yeah.
oh my goodness.
Doing a little bit of a grab.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that is nice.
And yeah, and we gave him a pretty unique projectile,
Oh,
which
that
really
is
cool.
nice.
So Springtrap has 2 weapons. I get to finally announce. I know the
Mm-hmm.
community have been talking about it. So he has a large pizza knife as his main weapon,
Yep.
and a heavy fire axe as his power.
Oh, the fire axe.
Fire axe.
So let's talk about the axe. How do you use the axe? How's it different from projectiles that other characters in Dead by Daylight use?
Yeah, so it's a very unique. It's not going to play like any other projectile killer that you've tried before. We wanted to do something a little bit interesting with it. So if you throw the axe and it hits something in the environment, whether it's a missed shot or it's deliberate, it creates an AoE that lasts about 15 seconds. And if a survivor walks through it, you get killer instinct on them for a short period of time.
What?
If you hit a survivor with it, kind of gets lodged in their back while you're chasing.
Kind of have an axe lodged in your back.
Just a
No
little
big
bit.
deal.
So they can remove it manually, or they can do it quicker in co-op with another survivor. As Springtrap, you can also retrieve it yourself if you get in close. You can skip kind of the steps of downing the survivor and picking them up. You get in close to a survivor that has the axe embedded in them. You click the button, you grab the axe and the survivor at the same time. You get a cool
That's
little
sick.
jump scare, and then you're carrying them on your shoulder. A couple of little notes. One of them is while you have your projectile available, you move at 4.4 meters per second. There he is.
There's a little glimpse.
My God.
But once you've thrown the axe, you actually move at 4.6 meters per second. It's something that we've never really done base kit for a killer. It makes for some really interesting tactical choices, meaning
That
that
shot is sick.
you have to recall the axe manually. It never comes back to you automatically unless you throw it out of the map, because you can make a mistake. But yeah, as long as it's in the environment or in a survivor or whatever it is, you have to manually recall it.
So it lightens his load a little bit, makes him a bit faster.
Exactly.
Perfect.
What?
So that brings us to another unique part of his gameplay, and I think super iconic to Five Nights at Freddy's, the security office. So let's get into that.
Yeah. So it was really important for us to give the killer and the survivor a really kind of interesting shared experience in that space, which allowed us to also lean into the jump scares. And some of the ways we came up with was to introduce a security office, which is part of any trial that Springtrap is the killer. It's part of his power, but it acts as kind of a transitionary space. So we have 7 doors that appear randomly around the map at chest spawns, and these can be used by survivors or killers to teleport around the map.
Yeah, there be a door.
There it is. And survivors can also use them for surveillance. So as a survivor, you interact with the door. It brings up the camera view. You'll get the kind of iconic map view in the bottom right of all the different cameras. On the bottom left, you'll see your battery power, which we'll talk about in a second. You can see what's going on in the other doors. You can switch between doors. If you see something that, if it looks safe on the other end, you press the button, your character goes into the security office, and then it's kind of like a hands-off, almost like a theme park experience where you see this first-person view going through the office, which is really cool.
And one thing you mentioned, again, just in case we have new folks playing, regardless of what map you're playing on, this functionality, the security room will be there as long as Springtrap is the killer in the match.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. And as a survivor, if you happen to see Springtrap through a camera, if you train your camera on him for a few seconds, he'll be revealed for a little bit for the whole survivor team.
Nice. That is sick.
And what about
Good
if,
feature.
like, what if Springtrap goes in at the same time as a survivor goes in at a different door and they meet?
Yeah, so since they can both use the doors in the security office, we wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for that interaction. So if a survivor is moving through that space from one door to the other, and Springtrap, excuse me, chooses one of those 2 doors, whether the one they're coming from or the one they're going to, he'll interrupt them in the security office for a fun little surprise.
Ooh. Awesome. I love all the little touches that the team has planted in there like that. I think the fans are really going to love it, including this. You mentioned the battery. Managing the battery is part of this as well. So how's that work in DBD?
Yeah, so survivors share a universal battery. It's shared amongst all of them. It drains a little bit, kind of ticks down per second while you're using the cameras. We didn't want players to just be the man in the chair and just sitting there and telling all their friends. So it drains a little bit, using the teleporter to move around the map, takes off a big old chunk in one shot, and then you have to kind of manage that battery as a team. It slowly recharges on its own over time, but you have to kind of manage when and where you're using it. If the battery does run out, the security system, which is kind of the doors, the cameras, the office, goes into shutdown mode for 45 seconds. But Springtrap is not affected by the battery. So if the survivors have kind of overplayed their hand and they shut the security office down, they've kind of given up their one bit of power in this chapter, and Springtrap can still use the doors and bounce around.
Oh,
and do whatever
dangerous.
he wants.
Dangerous. Fantastic. But what about disabling the doors?
Yes.
Yes.
So to go back to the axe, if the killer hits either a camera or a door, the whole thing, with their axe, that door and the camera becomes unavailable to survivors. They can't use it to teleport away, they can't teleport to that door, and they can't see through the camera that's been disabled.
Got it.
When the killer retrieves it, that effect lingers a little bit. It becomes a really cool way of like, I need to scope this area out, but I don't want to be revealed or seen. You can disable the door, move around, use it to fake the survivors out.
Got it. But it's not permanent. The door can be used again after the axe has been retrieved. Cool.
Unless it's in shutdown, which means the survivors can't use it anyway.
Right. Cool. Okay. So speaking about moving around the map, which it sounds like we have a new exciting way to do that. One of the coolest things about the chapter, in fact, is the map. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is now a new map, a new level within Dead by Daylight for DBD fans, specifically in the Withered Isle realm. So what can you tell us about the map?
Yeah, so the art team and the level design team, much like me, they did a ton of research. And like, I don't say this just because we're doing the stream here, but it's becoming one of my favorite maps. I love it so much. In the same way that we worked hard at kind of integrating a lot of opportunities for jump scares into the killer gameplay, their team really wanted to make sure that they did the same when it comes to things like Easter eggs and scares around the map.
Yeah.
So it really pays off if you're kind of an exploratory player a little bit.
Amazing. So are there some areas that you want to shout out that Five Nights at Freddy's fans might recognize?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot. You'll see a lot of small references and stuff, but obviously we've recreated a lot of kind of the iconic areas from the game. But we're also letting you exit the pizzeria to explore the outside a little bit, which is really cool. And we wanted to kind of add a little bit more space to allow for more dynamic chases and whatnot.
Nice.
But for the rooms, we've got the lobby, we've got the dining hall, of course, with the full animatronic band on stage. It's very cool. And we have the arcade, which is, it's all very kind of creepily decorated, like a birthday party. And, we have areas like the kitchen and even the mechanical room, which is cool. And
we can see a little glimpse right there, too.
Yeah, so altogether, this should kind of feel like I guess a formerly working pizzeria. Yes. And, of course, since it's Dead by Daylight, the entity's weird pustules and deformations are everywhere to remind you exactly of where you still are. And
you're
where
making a judgment call on those pustules there, Jay.
But if you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, I think you're really going to love the map. They've done a lot of really cool work.
I'm already knowing.
And it looks really good, too. The art team did knock it out of the park. But also with Springtrap wandering around, it's like a terror. And I think for Five Nights at Freddy's fans, whoop, you're going to be in familiar territory.
Yeah.
So one other nice thing that we did mention on the PAX broadcast, but I do want to mention it again, we're going to have a separate queue for this map specifically, which means you want to go to the game and you just want to check out the map. Normally, in the past, you'd be in the general rotation of maps and all that. Now you can go straight in just to the pizzeria without having to hope that you get there. So it's going to be...
That is going to be sick. I'm doing that first when I freaking do it, dude.
Any chapter with a new map will have a unique queue for that new map, which is really cool.
Perfect. Okay.
Don't
how about some last
video
tips?
on that.
Yeah. As Springtrap, get used to the arc of the projectile. As I said, it's super unique compared to other projectile killers. We've done something that really allows you to kind of pull off some pretty gnarly trick shots. We've seen some really interesting ones on our internal playtest. It's been super fun. So test that out, get used to it, and take advantage of the jump scares.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're playing with your friends, hearing them shout in your ear is always a great time.
Yes.
But for survivors, take advantage of the cameras and the doors. It may seem a little unsafe because you can be interrupted or whatever, but they're really valuable tools if you get used to them and you use it to reveal the killer and kind of scoping out the area. You'll get more of an advantage out of them than I think you realize at first.
Heck yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Jay, thank you so much, as
Thank you.
always, for joining us on the couch with your wonderful work and the fun stuff that you've planted in there. Soon enough, people will get to play around with it. I know you're
Yeah.
going to be glued to your Twitch screen so you can watch
yes.
people play it and test it out. Thank you so much for joining us. The show must roll on. So next, we're going to bring out our friend Justin Banks to fill you in on DBD's anniversary event that's right around the corner.
Nice. So yeah, I guess that was literally everything that they have shown us for the Five Nights at Freddy's and Dead by Daylight collaboration. Not gonna lie, what's up with the fire axe though? Like, hey yo, that might sound kind of dumb, okay? Is it a literal fire axe or is it just like a normal axe that firefighters tend to use? Look, alright, I'm not a firefighter, okay? And I'm definitely not going to, because especially what happened to my boy Bobby Nash, yeah, no. But yeah, dude, Springtrap looks very freaking great. He looks very phenomenal, man. And there was one specific close-up shot with him. The details of the pizza sauce, let's just call it that, the pizza sauce. Like, dude, that looks very sick. Like, he looks incredible. And yeah, there is some people that's just outright complaining it for just no reason at all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to like this video, and if you are new, once again, subscribe to see upcoming videos from me. Peace out.